If you have a friend suffering from suicidal thoughts, depression, what do you do? If you ever need help, then please know that there are many qualified people who would like to help you. https://www.iasp.info/resources/crisis_centers. http://www.befrienders.org/ http://www.suicidepreventionlifeline.org/ get help. LifelineChat.usps. http://www.samaritans.org/ how we can help you. UK. https://www.lifeline.org.au/ get help/ Oh, there are crisis services worldwide that are trained to provide support. They are designed to give temporary relief from feelings that are overwhelming you, and while they are unlikely to fix any underlying problems, can help you get through a tough hour/night/week. Chat services are usually available on these sites. In the U.S., calling 211 or going to their website is a free referral source. They have providers who will see you regardless of your ability to pay. Just as you would see a doctor when you are sick, you deserve to take care of your mental health. Psych here. These are some of the things my clients have found most helpful. Listening without judgment or giving advice. This above all, reassuring them that you are there for them, reaching out and staying in touch, as they might not be able to reach out to you when and if they're ready, suggesting, gently, you do a simple, easy activity you enjoy together. Internally, value their company, existence. They probably can't see any value in themselves in their current space. I would like to add a few clarifications. Based on personal experience, listening without judgment or giving advice. The phrase "it'll be okay" is perhaps one of the worst things that could ever have been said to me. "I'm here for you" is definitely the way to go. For simple activity, hiking in a preferably secluded area with few people, something that is out in nature. Being out in nature has been proven to positively impact a person's mood and overall well-being. Piggybacking on - be willing to sit in silence with someone, even knowing that someone is there is good, and not having the pressure to talk is even better. Bring food, snacks that are easy and small and zero effort. Granola bars, cookies, cereal. Make the person do stuff. Not big stuff, but hey, we're going to sit outside at a bonfire for a bit, come on then do it. Don't expect or force talking, but be ready to listen. Keep coming around, even when they say not to. Show up with food, flowers, ice cream, just because, clean socks, whatever. You don't need to stay long or anything, but keep showing up. If you feel comfortable doing so, ask them more questions about it. It's especially important to ask if they have a plan, or a means to fulfill their plan, as these can be signs that they're considering attempting soon. Here's a good article summarizing some advice, and linking to some really great resources. https://www.npr.org/sections/healthshots/2019/04/2076861001/how to help someone at risk of suicide. You should definitely consult the experts on this one. I sincerely hope your friend pulls through. They're lucky to have a friend like you in their life. Yes, asking about suicidal thoughts is not a bad idea, but you should keep two things in mind. Thinking of it is one thing, but it is really hard to actually do it. Just because a person is thinking about it does not mean they are actually going to do it. By you asking about it and them talking about it, you are actually taking off the pressure and making them less wanting to do it. Don't freak out when they tell you. Don't beat around the bush and try to tease it out. And don't be judgmental about it. It takes a lot of courage and trust to say yes, I would like to not live anymore. If they fear you might call 911 on them, or judge them, they might not be honest to you, or stop being honest. Just be inquisitive, genuinely interested and understanding. I feel very uncomfortable giving people advice when they are dealing with things I don't understand. I've been depressed and had problems, but no one has the identical problems and identical depression. It feels fake and I don't appreciate it done to me. I do agree with you about asking questions though. I always thought it would be too forward, but when I started I found that people more often than not very much want to talk more, and if they don't want to talk, they will say it without highlighting anything against you, likely even getting back to it. I also learned this recently. Friends shouldn't stop themselves from just talking either. Out of fear they have nothing smart or deep to come up with in that moment. Really, no one needs you to have perfect well-written words and sage advice. You can still just talk to your friend about random stuff that pops into your head, share funny things, discuss unrelated stuff. Your friend might appreciate the distraction, and if they can't get into it they'll still prefer hearing from you than not. And even a simple but regular "how are you feeling today" is okay. I think it's more important for a person to know they have someone who thinks of them and cares for them, which is demonstrated through time, rather than to get some perfectly worded reply with advice they probably are already aware of that just seems to push them onto someone else. Pushing too much about therapy and medical professionals. An important misconception, fear to address about this. Asking people if they feel suicidal and if they have a plan does not make them more likely to attempt it or put the idea in their head. This is backed up by research. It's an incredibly hard thing to do, but it's also incredibly important, and it could well save their life. The important thing is to ask the question and, actively, listen, non-judgmentally. Allow them to talk about their thoughts and feelings without interrupting or telling them to get over it, and especially don't say anything like they are selfish or morally wrong even if you believe so, because that will not help and will most likely do harm instead. For the record, I believe it is much more nuanced and situation dependent than the black and white many seem to view the topic. The nursing acronym I learned around assessing acute risk level for suicide is SLAP: specificity, lethality, availability, access, proximity to others. S if you ask them if they have a specific plan. There is a big difference in the responses. I just want to die and think about different ways I could, and I'm going to get really drunk, go out to the bridge in midnight and jump off. Also, this would be the likelihood of their plan being successful. For example, a gun versus drinking and taking pills. A, do they have access to the means needed to follow through with their plan? If their plan involves using a gun, do they have a gun or can they access a gun quickly? I'm in Canada, so I actually don't know how informative this question would be in the context of guns in the US. P, do they live alone? Does their plan take them away from reach of help? Taking a gun into the isolated woods, or overdosing when family goes out of town, etc. If you can get an idea of those four things, you can better determine if they need immediate intervention via first responders, hospitalization, etc. Good luck. I work mental health and I ask this question every single day. It's important that you can actually say the words, and say them comfortably. Are you having thoughts of dying? Are you having thoughts of suicide? Have you been thinking about a plan? If you're nervous about asking about it, they're gonna be nervous about telling you. Safety planning is huge too. If they are having thoughts of suicide, they might not want to tell you directly, but encourage them to come up with a way to signal they are no longer safe. It can be a code word, sneakers. It can be a number on a scale. If anyone has questions or wants an example of a simple safety scale that I often use with families, let me know. So, 8 years ago, my best friend of 18 years committed suicide. I never noticed anything was wrong until the day I found out he had passed. After that, hindsight was 20/20, and I couldn't believe I never noticed all the hints that were there all along. I spent a long time blaming myself. I noticed them now, why the hell didn't I notice them before? But, at the end, there was nothing I could do about it anymore. My friend was gone. So, instead, once I quit blaming myself, I made a vow. From then on, I wouldn't let it happen again. Anytime somebody I knew was showing any of the signs I had come to recognize, I reached out to them, even if it was somebody I didn't know super well. I've now done it 3 times. Once for a former coworker who had been laid off, once with the university classmate who was having trouble in her marriage, and once with a high school classmate who I noticed posting some very strange things on Facebook. Hadn't spoken to him in years, but we knew each other and he knew my friend who had died. Here's the advice I would give, right off the top, most important. You gotta let them know you see them struggling and that you are on their side. Don't do it in a confrontational way. It can start with something as simple as "Is everything alright?" Make sure they know you're not trying to intrude and insert yourself, but that you want to help. My go-to line has always been, "If you don't want to talk about it, you can tell me to butt out," but I wanted to make sure everything's okay. And then if they tell you to butt out, you damn well butt out, but end it with, "If you ever need to talk to somebody, just know I'm always here." If they do open up to you, just listen to them. Don't try to resolve their issues for them because, unless you're a trained psychologist, you're not equipped to do that. If they tell you, for example, that their girlfriend broke up with them, say, "That's terrible. Tell me what happened," not "That's terrible. What can I do to help?" In certain cases, people just need to vent all their frustrations and they need a person who is just going to listen to them, not make all their shit go away, but listen and truly feel sympathetic to them. Just knowing somebody cares enough to actually listen to you is a very reassuring thing. If they start telling you things that are causing their depression, under absolutely no circumstances whatsoever should you tell another living soul about it, even if the person that is causing them to have suicidal thoughts is somebody you know, even if you think that person would be reasonable about it, even if you think you can resolve the issue by telling somebody else. Don't do it. They opened up to you and only you. If they wanted somebody else to know, they would have told them. Encourage them to get some help if at all possible. One of the biggest issues is that they think getting help makes them weak. The stigma is starting to lift, but it is definitely still there. If you think they're a very serious threat to themselves, then try everything you can to break down that stigma and convince them to get some help. Those are my 4 points. I hope they are helpful. These are the steps I have followed and I like to think I've been somewhat successful to varying degrees over the past 8 years. I know it can seem daunting to put yourself out and offer to help your friend in need, but I promise you that it's worth it and a lot better than the alternative. Also, make sure to look after yourself in this process. Being there for a depressed and/or suicidal person is not easy. Once they start opening up, you might hear some things that are very dark and that you may not have wanted to hear, and hearing those things can bring some darkness into your own life too. So always make sure you are looking after yourself too. If you need any other advice or want help writing a message or something to your friend, you can always DM me. I'm always happy to help, even if it's a complete stranger. As someone who has battled suicidal ideation for the majority of his adult life, the second point should be bolded and italicized. It's so fucking important to have someone who will just listen. The worst is when people tell you they'll listen and then just vanish. It's the worst because you know the world doesn't revolve around you, but you're still angry because it feels like people just keep abandoning you. It sucks. Having someone who will listen is just so damn helpful. Having someone who also sets clear boundaries is helpful, at least to me. If someone clearly tells me now is not a good time for a vent session, I know I'm not being totally ignored. Best of luck, you, napkin finger, and God bless you for doing what you can. Thank you for taking the time to write this. 3 years ago I went through a terrible breakup where we remained in the same house together for a few weeks. During that time, she was going through all her stuff. I wanted to give her privacy so I didn't meddle in anything she was doing and just thought she was packing and organizing. Then I got a text from her that said something like, "I am so sorry to have done this to you." It turned out to be a delayed text. She had checked into a hotel and taken a huge amount of pills around 20 hours before I got the text. In her 35-page-long suicide letter, she had given me quite a few final requests. One was to distribute her things out as she had requested. When I went into the bedroom she was using, she had not been packing, but organizing all her things into label piles for different people in her life. The thought that she brazenly did this right under my nose and I didn't pick up on it was one of the worst parts of the whole experience for me at the time. but I have come to understand that she leveraged the fact that she knew I wouldn't invade or snoop, and that if I had been more attentive she would have been more private about it. She also had bagged up a huge amount of bathroom products, makeup, lotions, etc., and just threw them away. When I asked her why she was throwing perfectly good stuff away, she told me she didn't need them anymore. I, of course, thought she meant that she was getting rid of extraneous stuff because her lifestyle was about to drastically change. I worked. She didn't. Long story. Of course, she meant she wasn't going to be around to use it. In her suicide letter, she talked about how she knew it seemed silly but she wanted to look pretty when she passed, that she planned on putting on makeup. I remember reading that and wondering what makeup she had left. For some reason, of everything written in that letter, which was full of very pointed comments that I was the reason she was gone, the comment about looking pretty when she died is the thing that still haunts me the most. Anyway, I think I have done a pretty good job of letting go of most of my guilt, both self-imposed and imposed by her. But it's still hard to sometimes wonder how it never occurred to me that she was considering suicide. Sometimes I think I was just so relieved and looking forward to my new life without her that I pulled the wool over my own eyes. Sometimes I think I was just so happy that her issues were no longer going to be my issues. I was getting a jump start on not caring anymore. Either way, while I still do occasionally reflect on those experiences, I think I have my role in the whole thing in perspective. I didn't make her make the decision she did, but I take responsibility and accept that I played a major role in leading up to her decision. We were together over 10 years, so I don't think it would be healthy for me to ignore the fact that I played the starring role in her life, from her being a successful and happy person to her being a non-functional and depressed person. My amazing friends and family of course exonerated me from all wrongdoing at every opportunity, but if I agreed I feel like I'd be lying to myself and I don't want to do that. So, this is the part where I normally delete this post. I feel like I have written similar comments on similar Reddit threads hundreds of times, and I always hit cancel when I'm done. I think just the act of typing it out is cathartic enough, but I am going to let this one ride. By the way, we saved her. I called the police and told them everything I knew and where I thought she could be. I even turned the suicide letter over to the police. The amazing people I was with when I got her text immediately split up the list of hotels in the area and started calling them one by one. We found her within 2 hours of me receiving the text. She was alive but unconscious and unresponsive. She spent a few days on a respirator, and eventually regained consciousness. I have no idea what she is doing today, and I haven't spoken to her since, but I do hope she found a way to turn it around and is doing well. One thing I hate about society today is how "are you okay?" has been weaponized as an insult. If someone asks me that now, I assume they are belittling and mocking me, because 90% of the time they are. The world's an awful place filled with awful people, and it's sick how a genuine question for support has been turned into a way to metaphorically knife people who are struggling. Also, I learned my lesson never to ask for help. I once told a friend I was struggling and her husband immediately grabbed her phone to call me. I was in another country. He phoned me at 3 a.m. I can't begin to describe how unwelcome it was to get someone saying they just wanted to hear the sound of my voice and tell me I'm valued in the middle of the night. I hope you will have mercy on yourself and that you will forgive yourself. When I teach suicide prevention trainings, before we ever start, I tell my audience that suicide affects everyone. I tell them that I don't always know who is in my audience and what their life experiences have been. I then tell them to extend mercy and forgiveness to themselves and to not blame themselves for things that happened in the past prior to attending the training. We often equate suicide prevention with CPR. You only know what you know when you know it. Prior to being trained in suicide prevention, you did not possess the knowledge and skills to help someone, and you can't hold yourself accountable for things that you didn't know in the past. Just wanted to add that it can be good to ask things like how can I be more supportive to you moving forward. That said, a lot of the time folks simply don't know how to answer that question. This applies to any kind of stressful situation, not just mental illness or suicidality. So if the response is vague, I like to follow it up with the "would you mind if I checked in with you again?" Or would you rather I step back and let you come to me on your terms? That allows them to clearly state whether or not they want to keep that door open, for now, and if they agree a check-in would be helpful, gives both of you something to look forward to.